Professor Gumede, can we see you? Can you use your video so they can display you? Okay. While waiting for him, let me continue. The messages of the success came via WhatsApp and then email. And the rejoicing followed in quick succession. Okay, I can't locate him. Professor Edith, please call him. Now he's here. Now he's here. Sorry, I was. So the news came that the three of them are now ASAF members. Professor Edith. Hello, Professor Edith. Professor Edith. Okay. While waiting for her, she says she can't unmute herself. Can you unmute her, please? Can you, now
yes, Prof.
You can talk. Hello?
Yes, Prof. How are you?
Please, can you explain to our audience, and I will join you, what is ASSAF membership?
Okay. Can you hear me,
please,
Prof?
Can you spotlight her, please?
Okay. Oh, should I do the video? I'm not sure if Prof can see me.
Yeah, put on your video.
Well, I did, but I'm not sure if they can see me.
We can see you.
Okay, Prof.
Yeah.
Is that better?
It's good. It's good.
Okay.
You are charming as always.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you. And good morning, everyone in the US and everywhere else. Good afternoon. My name is Edith Paswana, and I'm the Acting Executive Dean at the Thabo Mbeki African School of Public and International Affairs. And I'm also here to celebrate my former colleagues, Professor Vusi Gumede, as well as Professor Serges Kamga, who happens to also be my former colleague, but also to celebrate and congratulate also Professor Abiodun Salawu, because we know each other through Professor Toyin Falola, who happens to be our godfather in many ways. And I am here. Prof has requested that I explain a little bit about ASAF and why is it important that we celebrate the colleagues that we are celebrating today. The ASAF stands for the Academy of Science of South Africa. And for many of us, we know that it was inaugurated somewhere 30 years ago, May 1996, by the former president of South Africa and his patron, Nelson Mandela. And indeed, it was in response after the fall of apartheid. It was a body that was formed to ensure that science benefits society. Prof, during the week, I think I posted something on my Facebook, actually. And I just want to read the quotation because it's just one of those WhatsApp messages that people flight, and it landed in my hands as well. But it was a very profound message. And its title says, A Crisis of Relevance in African Academia. And this person says, in lecture halls across Africa, A quiet tragedy unfolds every day. Brilliant professors, full of knowledge, passion, and vision, spend their best years chasing publications, not solutions. They write for journals abroad while problems at home multiply. Our universities overflow with research papers, yet our factories remain silent. Our libraries are full, but our laboratories are empty. Something is deeply wrong when professors in mineral-rich countries cannot produce affordable mining equipment, when engineering departments import the same machines they teach about, and when medical schools rely on diagnostic kits shipped from overseas. And Prof, I think this is a very, very profound message that is behind the foundation of ASAF, that science must benefit society. And the academy was also formed with this in mind. The Parliament of South Africa ensured that in 2001, also passed it as an Act of Parliament, Act 67 of 2001. And I think it was amended and became into operation in 2002. And it's the official National Academy of Science of South Africa, which represents the country in international community. And since its inception, it has grown from a small emergent organization to a well-established academy. So where we are now, ASAF is not for every Tom, Dick, and Harry. You have to be a certain caliber of academic to be a member of ASAF. And as we know, its mission is to recognize scholarly achievement and excellence in the application of scientific thinking for the benefit of society here in South Africa. And its members to ensure that they are available to contribute their expertise in the service of society. It means for a long time, these three individuals that we have today, they have been observed by this body as well in all the activities, academic activities, scientific activities that they have been doing. And also, the Academy seeks to conduct systematic and evidence-based studies on issues of national importance, producing authoritative reports that have significant impact on policymaking. And I think the three colleagues that we have, it's very clear that their work falls within this category as well. And therefore, they deserve this recognition, word of excellence, because they promote innovation and scholarly excellence. And that's why today we are here, and they are also here as members of ASAF. And the priorities of the academy must somehow match with the nation, and that's why I was also emphasizing that it is part of a Parliament Act. This ASAF, it was also found on that, and it has to align with national policies. And I think many of you will hear when they start to talk about what they are doing in society, their expertise. And I'm very privileged to have worked with at least two of these colleagues myself. And I have seen the amount of work and effort that they have put into their scholarly work and the seriousness of their work, and how their work also impact society for use. And I think when we speak of public policy in South Africa, Professor Gumede's name, there is no way it will come up or everywhere where we are. You speak of human rights globally, and the right to development. Professor Serges comes to mind. And those names are household names in the specific areas that I have already mentioned. And that is why we are not actually surprised that to see them receiving these accolades today. So, Prof, without wasting any time, there's a lot I can say about ourselves and how you become a member, but I'm grateful and congratulations to the two colleagues who are here. Over to you, Prof. Thank you.
Thank you for putting that in context. For our celebrant, if your wives and children are not here, please call them to join, because we are motivating them and we are motivating the next generation. Please. I will now review the scholarship of the three of them in succession. Let me start with Professor Serges Kamga. And he was a Cameroonian-born South African academic. In fact, he just returned to Cameroon to do the funeral ceremony of his mom. A beautiful event, and we all pray for that kind of beautiful ending. And he moved to South Africa, where he did a PhD in human rights law at the University of South Africa. French speaking, now with good English, and you must celebrate that transition. Because for those of you who use only English language, you see how difficult it is to quickly move to French and succeed in it. And he does, as Professor Paswana has explained, he does human rights, constitutionalism, social justice, and development. He's able to fuse both together, and he has successfully launched a biannual conference on development and human rights. He's joined us from Geneva, where he's hosting this year's conference. And he has approached us in Austin to host one of it, and we're going to do so. In his writing, you find governance systems which intersects with issues of poverty, inequality, exclusion at the institutional level. And it brings in issues around disability. He just completed a manuscript on disability. So you can plug him into the following areas. How do you decolonize legal education and human rights conversation? He's contributed to that. He is very keen on contributing to disability rights, and it's been a privilege that he contributed a chapter to my book on disability. But that also moves them towards discussion on inclusive governance. And in that inclusive governance, you see his origins and background coming to it. How do you deal with the rights of marginalized groups, marginalized communities, marginalized in social status, marginalized in class elements? How do you handle them? His third area as a lawyer, as you are going to expect, is around transformative constitutionalism, which it defines as how do you use the constitution of a country to drive social justice. In other words, don't see those laws as static and neutral. Apply them. And as you apply them, you are saying, look, the laws are there, the constitutions are there. Why don't you use them to drive reforms? In other words, just don't make your work just academic. Turn them into policy. And in the articulation of that policy, you find his explanation on African human rights system, in which he's been part of the advancement of what we call the African Charter and the African Court. Take constitutions, apply them, use the judiciary to enforce them. In other words, combine theory with praxis and see where that will lead us. So his research is more oriented towards policy, and his publications, so many essays on African human rights law in Journal of African International and Comparative Law. He's done a book on the role of transformative constitutionalism in several journal essays. And in 2020, he co-published a book, Social Justice and Human Rights in Africa, The Challenge of Implementation. And in 2018, he did a book on human rights in Africa, Prospects for the Realization of the Right to Development under the New Partnership for Africa's Development. So, well, for him to be able to do this, of course, he has to go to school. He has an LLB from the University of Yaoundé, LLM in Human Rights from the University of Pretoria, and Doctor of Laws from the University of South Africa. And he wrote his PhD, The Right to Development under the African Human Rights System and NEPAD. If you want to talk about his research interests, human rights and development, socioeconomic rights and justice, transformative constitutionalism, disability rights and inclusion, Africanization and decolonization, public policy and governance. I want to guess that they gave him this award for the following reasons. I'm trying to guess that they are celebrating maybe his theoretical contributions to scholarship around issues of human rights and intersection with development. I think they must have paid attention to his idea that development is not an economic goal, but a human right. A human right that requires the full realizations of our entire capabilities and freedom. Is a critic of the instrumentalist view of rights. Instead of championing instrumentalist view, he is saying, let's create an holistic frameworks. And in these holistic frameworks, human dignity must be connected with social and economic transformation. Second, in terms of his theoretical contributions, you can describe him as a transformative constitutionalist. Transformative constitutionalist. And drawing from South Africa's jurisprudence, Professor Kamga regards constitutions, and I want to quote in my own words, living instruments. And that as living instruments, they must dismantle historical inequalities. They must dismantle historical inequalities. And for that to happen, his essays connect constitutionalism to structural transformation. And as he connects both, he tells African countries to put human rights at the center of governance reform and public policy. He's a decolonial thinker, decolonizing human rights thought, and he's been rated as among the leading voices who promote decolonial human rights education in Africa. He challenges Eurocentric dominance of human rights theory and is proposing instead, in aggressive and clear articulation, notions of Afrocentric pluriversal understanding based on Ubuntu and human interdependence. His theories are also around disability inclusion, that disability is part of human rights, and we should integrate this into discourse. He's an academic leader. He once served as the acting dean of the Thabo Mbeki African School of Public and International Affairs. Today is the dean of the Faculty of Law, University of the Free State. He served as a research fellow, Center for Human Rights, University of Pretoria. He's on the board of the African Human Rights Law Journal. He's done peer reviews. He's been the consultant to the African Union Commission on Human and People's Rights. He mentors emerging African scholars. His intellectual influences are deep. If you look at his work, he has cited Amartya Sen, Frantz Fanon, The Colonial Critique, Lususa Santos, Epistemologies of the South, and he has also cited me on my ideas on intellectual decolonization. He's able to combine critical legal theory with African philosophical humanism as he situates his voice in transformative African jurisprudence. He's been awarded, cited across African human rights and constitutional law scholarship. He's contributed to policy dialogues, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. He's contributed to NEPAD Agenda 2063. He's rated as one of the pioneers in interdisciplinary approach to law, and he's been a mentor and thought leader around epistemic and institutional transformation. I'm fascinated by two quotations from his work, one in 2014 and one in 2021. Let me quote him. The decolonization of human rights must begin with reclaiming Africa's capacity to define the human in our own terms. And in 2021, he said, transformative constitutionalism in Africa is not simply about rights of enforcement, it is about reimagining society towards substantive equality. If you are looking for his books to read, my favorites are Towards a Decolonial Approach to Human Rights, published in 2014. His essay in the African Human Rights Law Journal, titled Transformative Constitutionalism and Socioeconomic Justice in South Africa, a Critical Reflection. I love his edited book on social justice and human rights in Africa. In 2018, he published Human Rights in Africa, Prospects for the Realization of the Right to Development under NEPAD. And in 2013, he published Realizing the Right to Development, the Role of NEPAD. I hope I've convinced you that his credentials are formidable. This recognition is merited. So let me ask you a question, Professor Kamga. What are the influences that shaped your career and drove you to this trajectory?
Thank you very much, Prof. And perhaps before I respond, I would like to thank Dean Edith Paswada for organizing this celebration. Thank you so much. I want to, of course, congratulate my fellow panelists in this occasion. Well, you guys happen to be, I am sitting here with my former and actually 3 bosses. My bosses, you as the chair of the International Advisory Board. I have my boss, Prof. Gumede, my boss, Prof. Edith. We should actually be celebrating the TM school, formerly Timali, for producing us, for producing here. We have 3 deans, and let's say 2 deans and 1 DVC. Of course, I also congratulate Prof. Salawu from Northwest. I congratulate you as well, sir, for being for receiving the award. And of course, at Timali, I'm emphasizing Timali because that's where most of us, all of us met and established a family. Give me a second to ask. Pardon, je suis en réunion, s'il vous plaît. So most of us met there to create a body of knowledge. And without that productive environment that was established first by Prof. Gumede, who used to say to me, every time I will come and say, Prof, thank you for this opportunity. He said, keep going, keep going. He kept encouraging me. For him, it was never, okay, you did well. He'd say, you did well, but keep going. So that has been very inspirational. He was, for me, not only my boss, my brother, my friend, someone that beside work, you can talk to you, he can encourage you, he can talk to you, he can mentor you and help you not only to be happy with the work that you do, but help you improve that work. He will unlock all possible opportunities to enable you to work and be productive. For that, I am forever grateful. Prof. Edith was also not only first my colleague, but my sister, who will talk to me, we will visit each other at home, we will discuss, we became very close. And also, when she became my boss, again, she was also there to make sure that I succeed, that I do well what I have to do. And Profalola himself, what can we say? He put everything, every possibility on our path to develop, to grow, not only through references, through forwarding his work, through phone calls. Perhaps if I may cut a very long story short, he said to me one day, he had come to South Africa and I went to see him. I was at the airport with my family, and at the time I had 1 book. He said, Kamga, look, you have 3 boys, 1 wife. You can't even share that book with them. So you will tear it. You need to write more books so that each of them can have 5 or 10 books written by you. That also resonates. This is to say, and in this, I will say, and I wouldn't forget colleagues at the school. Colleagues like Stephen, who, you know, though a junior brother will always be there to encourage, to talk, to check, how are you doing, with phone calls. So Sonia, Hengiwe, Ken, all these guys, you know, it was such a family that the spirit, the working together that was there for me was critical in my academic journey. And I will say what now inspired me to do the type of work that I did is the experience of poverty. And I was a lawyer, and I said, but how can law just be black letter law that does not improve people's life? How can we use the law to defend or fight poverty, to defend the law become a tool to defend the wealthy in the society. In the early day, I attended a conference in Canada where people were talking about HIV like a theory, HIV/AIDS. They've never seen somebody who was HIV positive. And such things kind of touched me so heavily, and I wanted to come back to Africa. In fact, at the time, I thought I was going to stay in Canada, but I could see that, okay, they have what they want, and I use law as a tool to interrogate our own reality. Hence, I said, shouldn't we be looking at development as a human right? If we say development is a human right, probably it's become binding not only on our states, but on the international community to also help us achieve this development and be delivered from the shackle of poverty. That's what really guided my trajectory. But for me to get to this point, I will tell you, it depends on people you meet on your path. People that you meet, there are some people can break you, some people can just make you collapse in the workplace. And I will say, I was fortunate to work with Prof. Gumede, Prof. Paswana, Prof. Alola, now Prof. Salawu. Really, for me, I'm grateful. Of course, I will thank my family that also stood by me all the time. So perhaps I want to stop here. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. And I want to turn to my good friend, Deputy Vice Chancellor, former Dean, Professor Vusi Gumede. The last time I saw him, he was wearing a white shirt when he came to Pretoria to celebrate me and talk about me. I think his favorite is that white shirt, which symbolizes purity of mind, of soul, and of the body. May that whiteness transform you into an angel in the future. I can talk a lot about him because we've interacted. You see, he makes his statements in a gentle and polite manner. He's done policy, he's served in government. His contributions are stellar and profound. He has a PhD in economics, and he did a postgraduate diploma in policy, a combination that is very, very powerful. And he worked for 11 years in senior government positions in South Africa. And thereafter, He held academic appointments as Associate Professor in Development Studies, University of Johannesburg. I met him as a professor and head at Thabo Mbeki African Leadership Institute in South Africa. He served as the Dean of the Faculty of Economics, Development and Business Sciences, University of Mpumalanga. And now is in Durban as Deputy Vice Chancellor. He's traveled widely, holding distinguished fellowships at IAD, Cornell, Yale, Oxford. These are powerful, powerful institutions. His publication is staggering, over 20 books, over 50 journal articles, supervision of many masters, many PhD candidates, and is rated very highly by the South African National Research Foundation as an established scholar. Like Professor Kamga, his fields are extensive, covering higher education, public policy, governance, and leadership, and is written extensively on public sector reforms, higher education in South Africa after the fall of apartheid, on leadership, leadership for development, the role of the academy in transformation. He wrote a piece exploring the role of thought leadership, thought liberation, and critical consciousness for Africa's development. And his argument that beyond material and structural factors, Africa's development requires rethinking epistemologies and developing critical consciousness. And in that cumulation of his essays around thought leadership is one of the preeminent contributors to African knowledge, thought leadership, liberation, and the colonial frameworks. In fact, as a leader and dean of the Thabo Mbeki School, he centralized the idea of thought leadership to organize that institute. And it connects knowledge, his knowledge, to the ideas around social policy, inequality, and poverty, focusing on how to reform post-apartheid South African state. And if you look at his essays, they are very profound on the legacies of apartheid, reviewing the promise of the development state, the role of women, youth empowerment, land reform, transition to economic growth with social inclusion. He's an advocate of regional integration, promoting the ideas of the African Renaissance and Pan-African futures. He's expanded our understanding of the continental free state, free trade, regional economic communities, serious contributions to African political federation, connecting the idea of regionalism to Africa's agency in global order. He's a preeminent scholar of political economy of development, interrogating the African states, teaching us about development, inequality, transformation, structural economic issues. I enjoyed his Towards Effective Developmental States in Southern Africa, which I reread this morning. And yesterday, I reread his major essay, Revisiting Poverty, Human Development, and Inequality in Democratic South Africa. I think they must have given him this major award on the basis of the following. First, his profound contribution to revisiting poverty, development, and inequality in South Africa, with major theoretical essays on poverty and inequality, which, as you and I know, is still a severe problem in South Africa. They must have also considered his major contributions to thought leadership around the ideas of what he characterizes as critical consciousness, borrowing from Mandela, from Steve Biko, from Martin Luther King, and he published a major essay on 2015, making the argument that we must centralize intellectual and ideological transformation in African development. They must have also have considered his theoretical essays on developmental states. I am not a member of that committee that reviewed him, but I'm convinced that they will have paid attention to his significant contribution to the concept of symbolic order, identity, African futures, knowledge frameworks, and African languages. I've written a media essay on him, widely circulated, and these are the points I brought out in his long years of experience. He bridges economics with policy and epistemology. His training is in economics and policy, but his writings are beyond those, including quantitative economic analysis, dealing with structural issues, governance, ideology, and knowledge from the colonial point of view. He's an advocate of African agency, and you will see this in his scholarship on AFCFTA, Pan-African integration, the articulation of the African Renaissance, and what Africa can bring. He's devoted years and years to the understanding of inequality, exclusion, social policy, indigenous knowledge, the focus on the residual legacies of apartheid, the limitations of technical reforms, the need to consider consciousness and leadership. He's contributed enormously to higher education and public policy, and he has an interdisciplinary appeal. To younger people listening to us, he has reflected on higher education reform. He has emphasized thought liberation, that it connects to intellectual identity. He has insisted on a decolonial framework of knowledge. And he has, in his capacity, contributed to the training of graduate students. He has brought up junior faculty, mentoring them till they become full professors. He has organized and promoted many conferences. He has traveled widely. He's a preeminent collaborator with African scholars in different regions. He's collaborated with scholars from East Africa, with scholars from West Africa. So I am sure that he will have received a unanimous no objection vote in securing the membership in this prestigious academy. Professor Vusi Gumede, you grew up partly in apartheid South Africa. Were you expected to be this successful?
Thanks, Prof. Alola. I hope you can all hear me.
Yes.
Let me greet, I see many familiar names and some faces, and like Prof. Kamga, I think I have to acknowledge my own family. Thank the roles that families play. We sometimes thank them last, but I think I would like to start with that. And you, Prof. Alola, Prof. Kamga has said a lot, and for me, really, I think the opportunities you've created for us. So when you mentioned the number of books, I think 3 of them are largely through your hand, and there's another one forthcoming through you. The opportunities that you've created for us, we remain grateful, and of course for the mentorship in other roles you play, like Prof. Kamga, supporting during tough times. So things that sometimes we overlook. But for us to be able to do what we do and what we've done, the support of those we look up to matters a lot. So it's been really great that you've played those roles. But I won't go into too much detail about that. I think there are many other people we can acknowledge here. I suppose, yeah, well, I don't know. I didn't know that we'll end up here. But I suppose with hard work, you get very far in life. Nothing can be impossible. It may take a while, but ultimately you get here, and the acknowledgements that we're now receiving that we're very appreciative of. So I think I've answered that question about apartheid, but I'm not sure if I should be saying more, and perhaps if I need to say something along the lines of this intellectual journey. But I'll hear from you, Prof. Alola, if I should be continuing. Maybe I should proceed. So we're expected to talk a bit about our intellectual journeys, which Prof. Kamga has done excellently. For me, well, in particular, I think the biggest influence, what has shaped my intellectual work really is the encounter with former President Thabo Mbeki. And I attribute a lot of this to him, working under him, for him, with him during the 19 years that I was fortunate to work with him, both in government and of course, at Timani. So when I joined, when I started working with him, and this again to acknowledge, I guess, Prof. Wiseman Goslu, who brought me into government, and to the presidents in particular, during the early days of NEPAD, the new Partnership for Africa's Development. It's got a different name now. Then it was still New African Initiative, and then it became MEP and all different names. And that, in a sense, opened my mind. I mean, I've been doing work on Africa, worrying a lot about poverty in particular, and I think that was shaped by my own context of where I came from in northern KwaZulu-Natal, and where I could see many challenges, and here in our province, and of course across the country, the challenge of development. But working on NEPAD expanded that perspective for me, and then the preoccupation was really more about Africa, the continent as a whole, and how do we ensure that development takes place in our continent. So I think those early years working on NEPAD, and particularly with former President Mbeki, which continued for about 11 years when I was in government, has played a significant role. And during those years, we also encountered many other people as I was transitioning to the academic sector, because my plan, while I've always hoped that I would be an academic, so I had a stint before getting into government, and when I had an opportunity to get back, started part-time lecturing, as I was planning to come back into the academic sector around, this must have been 2006 or so. And the exposure then that I got in relation to CODESTRIA, the Council for the Development of Social Science Research in Africa, and many people, of course, who played big roles there. I cannot mention all the names, but I must mention Professor Sam Moyo, because he was really the anchor. He opened the doors for us, introduced us to many people. I'd known a lot about Professor Mkandawiri. Both of them are late now. May their souls rest in peace. But through Professor Moyo, I got to interact with many people, Professor Milamir. It's a long list that I can go through, and people who've played a very big role. So I think CODESTRIA is one of those institutions that has further, in a sense, shaped our scholarship, or my scholarship in particular, and the work that I've been doing in relation to development, the political economy of development in Africa. And then there will be other people similar to Prof. Falola, Professor Molefese Asante, and the association with his institute of Afrocentricity, Professor Kwesi Kwapra, and the time I spent, I argue actually, the time I spent in the Center for Advanced Study for African Society, which was Professor Kwesi Kwapra's center in Cape Town, played a very big role in the work that I've continued to do and sharpened arguably my intellectual work around that. So I mean, I can thank and acknowledge in what has really shaped me, or at least my intellectual work. And I must acknowledge our own institutions. Professor Kamga has spoken a lot about Timali. I think it really played a very big role. Obviously, UJ for me, where I started when I got back into the academic sector, esteemed at VETS, UCT. I mean, all these that are associated with played roles, but I think most importantly, that we're people. So at Timali, for instance, as a team, we did a lot, but I think it helped us a lot that with former President Mbeki, but also the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, that we must acknowledge, because they ensured that we had all those opportunities. And then, of course, UNISA, we cannot forget, and the leadership of UNISA, which allowed us to do what we thought was important to do at the time. My former employer, UNISA Pomalang, and all the opportunities that they've created for me. It's not easy, and I think many people can acknowledge that once you are in leadership roles, so Timali, UNISA Pomalanga, in particular, the past 15 years, arguably, we have been occupying these leadership roles. It's difficult to really pursue rigorous intellectual work. And that's why I'm acknowledging these institutions, of course, the people in those institutions too, that have given that space for us, our colleagues too, co-workers that we must acknowledge, administration. Sometimes we forget, in my case, my secretaries over the years, who've ensured that I can also focus more on intellectual work and leadership and, support, mentorship, coaching, and so forth. So without really going too far, I think those perhaps 3 areas, if I can acknowledge, CODESTRIA, Center for Advanced Study of African Society, Timali, played very big roles in a sense in shaping my own intellectual work. And I'm grateful to many. And I must acknowledge, actually, here in the call, I see many names of co-researchers, research assistants, postgraduate students, people have researched with, written with, published with. Prof. Kamga himself, we've done books, with him, and there are many others who've played roles in the intellectual journey that I think is what the ASAF membership award is actually acknowledging. I'm going to stop here for now, Prof. Falola. Thank you. You're muted, Prof. Falola. You may be advising yourself.
You are muted.
I am not. I'm waiting for Professor Salawu. Maybe he's gone to the bathroom. Okay, while waiting for him, let me begin to talk about him. Welcome. I thought you went to the bathroom.
Something like that.
He's a chief. You can see it from his cap. I've known Professor Salawu for some time now, and we were born in the same city. I think I saw him 2 weeks ago in Lagos. I would describe him as the leading voice in African communication studies and media studies, focusing on indigenous languages. If you are looking for a reference point in this field, you have to go to him around the issues of language, culture, identity, the future of communications, higher education, and African knowledge systems. He has reflected on digital policy for African languages. He has reflected on African languages, media, identity, future of knowledge, and he's done a lot of edited volumes on these issues. He has been critically engaged on indigenous language media and how this media shapes our self and identity, applying them to language networks and transnational networks. And his research has enhanced our knowledge of the African diaspora. It's a major bridge between journalism and media practice and economic theory. He's added theories on media communication, grounding them in the African context. His writings has shaped thinking about how African universities, scholars, indigenous languages, digital infrastructures shape the future of knowledge. Unlike Professor Kamga and Gumede, his work also dwells on pluriversalism and decolonized knowledge. He successfully centered African languages and media platforms, thereby contributing to what I would call alternative epistemologies to the global order. I've benefited from reading some of his over 200 academic publications, some of which have requested policy frameworks to support our work. He's written on how you can use languages for advertisement, and he published an essay in the Journal of Qualitative Report talking about Yoruba advertisement in Nigeria. His reach extends to popular music, indigenous language media. Why did they give him this award? I'm not there, but I will mention three main aspects which will have influenced the committee. They will have paid attention to the relevance of his future-oriented scholarship, involving global debates around digital inclusion, decolonizing knowledge, indigenous language in media positions, communication equity. Just as Kamga applies law to equity and inclusion, Professor Salawu does the same with languages. And I've paid attention to his contribution to language rights. They will have appreciated his studies that combines theory with practice. They will have spoken to his practical experience. He practiced journalism in Nigeria, and he teaches journalism. So he's doing three things all at once: media studies, connecting those to the use of language, connecting those with social change. And the committee will have rewarded his contributions to linguistics justice and to the notion of cultural justice, celebrating our multilingual realities, moving away media and communication studies from colonial language dominance to our indigenous languages. Is one of those who has been successful in pointing out the role of language and identity. Is one of the most successful in linking media studies to development, and he has enriched our understanding of media and democracy. His focus, his contributions are sustainable in talking about indigenous language media, new media, critical media studies, language politics, and development communication. He's a distinguished scholar in his university and elsewhere in the world, a member of the Nigerian Academy of Letters, and other awards celebrating his contributions to journalism, communication, and media studies. He is the founding director of a center, Indigenous Language Media in Africa, at the University of Northwest, and he holds a PhD in communication. In pointing out his contribution, I will mention the following. 1, scholarly publishing, significant books in the area of indigenous language media in Africa, African language, digital media, and communication. 2nd, is engaged study of African language newspapers and broadcast media, and is written elaborately on language newspapers, advertising in indigenous languages, media sustainability in the language context. 3rd, is a foremost scholar in providing us with robust understanding on the intersection of media, language, and digital platforms. He has informed us in serious intellectual engagement on digital spaces and how these digital spaces can reproduce colonial language hierarchies. He posed the question, can't we shift the sites of empowerment to African languages from English and French? And he showed us the way. And he has argued that African languages are crucial sites to maintain linguistics and cultural diversity. ILMA, the name of his center, is prolific, is sustainable, and has become global. He invited the preeminent literary scholar Ngugi to give a talk on ILMA, and I participated in that conversation. I've also benefited from his generosity. He invited me to speak at Ilma, physical, not virtual. And he said I should come and give a lecture. And I told him, you are spending thousands and thousands of dollars. I'm not coming to give one lecture. I don't want to waste your money. Instead of one, I gave 5 lectures. And all those lectures will appear in the book, African Methodologies. And I cannot thank him enough. Professor Salawu, what brought you to this area of scholarship that has given you preeminence and globalized your career in the International Academy? How did you arrive at this? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor Falola, our father and our mentor. And so thanks to Professor Edith Paswana, who collaborated with you to put this celebration together for us. We cannot thank you enough. So I join my other 2 colleagues, Professor Kamga and Professor Gumede, to thank you. And I also congratulate them as well for being found worthy to be members of this prestigious academy, that is the Academy of Science of South Africa. And of course, I thank the academy itself, that found us worthy, the committee that screened us, found us worthy to be put on the ballot for the election, and of course, the generality of the members of that academy that voted for us to become members, giving us that tag of one of the distinguished scientists and celebrated scholars in South Africa. We cannot thank them enough. And to me, it is one of the essentialities of the zenith of anybody's career to be so recognized by important national academics. Maslow talks about hierarchy of needs. The 4th need, the 4th level of the need is esteem. We speak to recognition by your peers. It speaks to sense of accomplishment. So as an academic, when you reach this kind of level, you know that you have reached that level in Maslow's hierarchy of need, that level of esteem. And of course, of self-actualization, which speaks to our ability, to become a better version of ourselves, and to achieve our full potential. So we appreciate them for that. And I also want to thank all my colleagues, my friends who are on this platform to celebrate with us. I invited them and they were able to come. Of course, it's not everybody you invited, who will come. Some will even ignore it. But for them to be here, it shows their loyalty to friendship. It shows their appreciation of one's being. So I thank my current and former students as well, who are here to celebrate with us. My current and former postdoctoral fellows, who are also on this platform. These people are my co-workers. They are my co-laborers. Without them, I do not think I will have been able to achieve what we have achieved together. Actually, one of my former students is here with me in this room. I taught him many years ago at the Polytechnic Ibadan in Nigeria. So he's here, with me in the room to celebrate with us. Going back to the question of how I came into this, let me just start by saying that as a child growing as a secondary school student, I was fascinated by the writing scale, the art of writing. I enjoyed writing, whether in Yoruba or in English, and I was always enamored by great writers like Wole Soyinka, Chinua Achebe, and all that. Yeah, so then I thought of, I know that it was not something fashionable at that time to say, you want to develop a career, in writing. And I do not really think that there was any program called creative writing, in our universities then. So you probably just have to study English or literature, yeah. So then I put my mind on journalism, that journalism, would help me to be able to express myself, would help me to be able to write as I love to do. So I went into that, first studied English in Ife. And then, because of that passion that I wanted to go into journalism. So after my degree in English, I went for my postgraduate studies in mass communication at the University of Lagos. Started with a postgraduate diploma and then an MSc. And during that time, I was also practicing. I was in journalism practicing. I worked for a number of newspapers in Lagos and in Ibadan. And then later, I furthered my education, by going for a PhD also in communication. So, but as I said, I was working, I was practicing all the time when I was doing all that, before I later moved into the academia. But then something that kept nudging me was the fact that we were not really focusing on communication in our languages, in African languages. So everything was all about communication in English. You find newspapers, in English and all that and all that. And there was nothing like digital platform then. In any case, it was only the newspaper and the broadcast media, television and radio. Yeah, so when I was going to write my project during my postgraduate diploma in mass communication at the University of Lagos, I decided to do something, about communication in Yoruba language. So I studied, I did a historical study of 3 Yoruba newspapers for their postgraduate diploma project. I think I studied they are defunct now. Ishokan, Boom Boom. Yeah. Which other one was that? You were in Yoruba. So I did a historical study of them. And then when I went for my master's, I followed, in the same trajectory, doing also something in that line. And when I went for my PhD, also in the same line, but this time around, for my PhD, I was not just only interested in the history of these newspapers and all that. I was more interested, in how they are being used for development purposes, how they serve as channels of development communication, yeah, how they can be used to bring about social change, yeah, in terms of health, in terms of democracy, in terms of family planning, environment, gender, and a host of other developmental issues that you can think of. So, and that was what I did for my PhD. And since I completed my PhD, I didn't look back. I kept, digging and digging further in that area. I was fortunate to have a professor, who was my neighbor at that time. That time, I was working at the Polytechnic Ibadan in the Department of Mass Communication while I was also studying my PhD. I did my PhD while I was working at the Polytechnic Ibadan. So this professor told me about the importance of having an academic focus. It means being a professor in a year because it was criticized for being not focused. It was just publishing here and there. Didn't have a focus. What probably, in some instances, could have been credited to be eclecticism or dynamism, that the man, is dynamic, is an all-rounder, he was punished for that. So he missed that opportunity at that time, until he applied later and he got it. So that set something in my mind that I needed to have a focus. So I chose, to then have my focus in indigenous language media. I could say, with all sense of modesty, that I'm the father of that discipline. I initiated it and I pioneered it. And I thank God that a lot of people have taken after me, doing their masters, their PhD, even my postdoctoral fellows. Yeah. So that was how I came into it. And I will also say that I was influenced by Ngugiwa and Fiogo, who took a decision somehow in his career, sometime in his career, to stop writing in English language and to be writing in his native Gikuyu. Yeah, and today, we know Ngugi for that, even when he died earlier this year, that was what everybody was talking about. So I just felt that if you could do that, in literature, I could as well, do the same, in the media. So, and even in my studies, my master's, my PhD, you will see his influence even in the literature that I use for my work. Yeah. Before I stop, I should also thank my family because I could see my wife and all my children, on this platform. Thank you, because if I don't do that, I'm cutting a fight. so thank you for being there for me. Thanks for your support.
There'll be no pepper soup and beans for you after this program. Well, it's now family members, Mrs. Salawu, wives, if you want to talk about your husband. I know they've given you troubles in terms of not coming home, attending conferences, traveling all the time. You can talk. If the kids want to talk, after the families, we call their colleagues. If nobody wants to talk, we throw it open. Family members. Okay. Friends, colleagues. Anyone who wants to talk? Tributes on behalf of these three great scholars? Just raise your hand. Silas Udonze. Silas Udonze. Please spotlight him and let him talk, please, Silas. Silas.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Silas.
Silas,
are you drinking beer, rejoicing with them?
Well, in spirit I am.
You sit so relaxed as if there is beer to your right.
This is Saturday. I tend not to work on Saturday. I just relax.
I'm not working either. I'm like you.
Yeah, it's I think it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Silas Udenze. I'm actually joining you from Barcelona, Spain.
So you play for Spain? You play outside, right?
No, I play my academic match in Spain, but I support Barcelona. Well, I think it's a pleasure to be here, and I really want to congratulate the awardees for their wonderful scholarship they've been doing, and it's encouraging for young scholars like us. And for Professor Abiodun Salawu, which I've been fortunate to follow, and haven't published in one of his edited books on indigenous language in Africa, and follow his scholarship. I really want to say congratulations, because it is not easy to craft a niche that is not yet developed and people are coming to such need. And I think it's a great thing to actually rethink scholarship in terms of indigenous language. Like I always do in my scholarship, when I conduct my interviews, I don't really conduct them in English. I conduct my interviews in English language and the Nigeria Pidgin English. And sometimes I don't really need to translate the Pidgin English. Yes. So I think I got a cue from your scholarship, sir, and I really want to say congratulations. And to Professor Vusi Gumede and Professor Kamga, your portfolios are so wonderful, and we hope we follow your path, and of course, one day we'll be celebrated like this too. Congratulations to everybody. Congratulations, Dr. Professor Abiodun. I wish you more success, everybody.
Thank you
very much.
Lamba. Sino Lamba. Sino? Okay. TK Poi. Okay, Sino is here now. TK Poi, please go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Viola. My name is TK Poa, currently based in Rwanda, Kigali. I would say at the insistence of Professor Vusi Gumede, who's always said, TK, you must leave and go to the continent to actually feel, to actually become a proper scholar. For now, we're not, I think now he'll finally call me a scholar. He's always just said, I'm there and thereabouts. And also to Professor Kamga, a great honor, I think, just to actually see you after a long time. I know it's supposed to have met. I think both to all the awardee, the people, the recipients, congratulations. And I think as the previous speaker said, it does inspire us. It's very fascinating just to notice that, look, we don't have to go far now off the continent to find excellence. And the excellence doesn't even have to leave the continent, it's right here. When we speak about, Professor Gumede always just speak about thought leadership. Thought leadership needs to be rooted on the African soil. And to actually see the three gentlemen being able to do this it's a magnificent thing. From a personal perspective, with Prof. Kamga, a very silent individual, but very encouraging in the background. Always saying, look, you can do this, just go for it. And the synergy between him and Professor Gumede, when I think we were all at the Thabo Mbeki school, was something quite interesting. We always decry the fact that leadership, even we always look at state leadership, but it's always interesting to look at academic leadership, that sometimes it doesn't play its role. But when you are in the presence of both Professor Kamga and Professor Gumede, just the ability to always want to put young scholars forward. And it was not an accident. It was not that there was some legal requirement that they had to do, but they personally did it, I think, to the full. And to Professor Gumede, obviously, who took a chance. The one thing about Prof, his mentorship style is very awkward. I always give the story, and I can embarrass him now because he's too far away. He can't harm me when I'm here. That you would find that he wants projects now. I would be at church on a Sunday, and a WhatsApp would come in. TK, why is the sentence not up to scratch? What were you thinking when you were writing this? TK, I'm disappointed. And then on Monday, everything is normal. And you're like, this man, he's disturbing my spiritual peace on a Sunday about a sentence. But it would be, that's Professor Gumede. He does not sacrifice on standards. And what I liked about him is he would always be willing to lend you his name. You want an application, TK, just write it. If it makes sense, I will support it. But he'll always teach you something in the process. And what I loved about even his academic way of writing, he said, look, TK, you look at the journal, you look at the chapter and say, hey, Prof, I don't think I'm quite up to stand. He says, write it. I'll fix it at the end. But that's what you kind of want as a mentor, somebody who's willing to say, I'll take a chance on you. TK, I want you to attend this meeting there. Prof, this has a lot of professors and there's no title behind my name. Professor Gumede says, don't worry, we'll fix it along the way. And mentorship is, I always say with him, it was intentional that he wants you to make the mistake and learn from the mistake. Sometimes people get shielded too much, and his was like, make the mistake, it's fine, we'll fix it along the way. We don't often say it, but thank you very much, Professor Gumede, just lending your name. I won't say I thank you for disturbing my peace on a Sunday, but I guess it did help. And Professor Kamga as well to you, just the silent leadership you played. I think of it 2 or 3 years ago, especially when we were just speaking, just your encouragement about applications and really going for it and just being an academic, being very solid. That's the one thing I love about Professor Kamga. He's very sound as an academic. He reads, he makes sure that you're up to standard, but again, he'll give you an opportunity when the time arises. I don't want to take too much of the time, Professor Fayola, but rather to say thank you. And yeah, you continue to inspire us to the professors. And I don't think this is the end. This is only the beginning. And please, may you also mentor many more people going forward. And yeah, just please assist African institutions, especially higher learning, such that we can actually start addressing the problems of the continent. Because I think that's where I think by your gentlemen, the style that you both put across, that's what's important. Thank you also to, I think, Professor Paswana for sharing the invite. And yeah, and I'll just stop there, Prof.
Thank you very much. Mlamba, are you there? Mlamba? Okay, let's call Babatunde Ojebuyi. Babatunde Ojebuyi.
Yes, good afternoon, sir, Professor Falola.
Yes.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I thank you for anchoring this program brilliantly. You have really done well, and I'm happy that I'm part of this program this afternoon. And let me congratulate the 3 recipients for the feat they have achieved in their respective fields. They have become pace setters and pathfinders in their different areas. And I believe that this is not the end, it is just the beginning to further greatness and higher heights. And I want to thank my mentor, Professor Abiodun Salawu, for inviting me to this program. It will have been very painful if I have missed this opportunity. I really thank him and I congratulate him for achieving this. It is not an accident that he has been given this award. It's a track record, it's achievement, testimonies that he deserves this. And I believe that this is not the end, it's just the beginning of achievement that are coming his way. Professor Abiodun Salawu is just not a random person to me. He taught me at the undergraduate level. He taught me, that was when he was teaching at the Polytechnic Ibadan, and when he was doing his PhD at our Department of Communication and Language at University of Ibadan. It was since then that he had impressed me in terms of his brilliance. He would come to class without holding any notes and would teach us brilliantly. I fell in love with him. I liked him since that time. And after I completed my PhD, I was looking for postdoctoral opportunities. Then, through my supervisor, my mentor, Professor Ojebode, I got in touch with him again. And he said, today you can come. Then he just sent the application form to me. I filled and I submitted. I wrote my concept note and it was reviewed and it was successful. Then I traveled to South Africa. He was my host. He was my mentor there. He gave me the platform, the opportunity to work. And let me confess that if not because I had the opportunity of going to South Africa, perhaps my career progress will have not been so fast as it is, because going to South Africa gave me that opportunity to collaborate with him, to publish with him. And I'm happy today that if they are citing or people are reading his work, I'm very sure that before they read 10 or 15 of his works, my name will come out. And anytime I see citations that people are citing Salawu and Ojebuyi or Ojebuyi and Salawu, I feel happy that, I have a great shoulder on which I've leaned myself. And it has been very, very useful, what I call it, pathfinder for me, because it has led the way for me When I was there, he gave me a kind of focus. It's like he taught me some work ethics. One of his weaknesses that I know that I want to say this afternoon is that Professor Abiodun Salawu does not have patience for laziness. If you go to him, you want to work with him, you are lazy, you are not focused, he will not like you. You will fight. But if you are focused, you are hardworking, you are productive, you know what you are doing, you'll be friends. And that was what gave me.
Apologies for that, your virtual interaction. Dave Michello. Dave Michello. Dave Michello, is your turn. Please bring Dave. Dave. Okay, while waiting for Dave, let's go to Professor Olajumoke Aliso. Please. Yes, ma. Before you do that, I ask all of you to go and bring something to celebrate and to toast. This bottle of brandy was given to me by Serges Kamga some years back. He just wrapped it and gave it to me. He's giving me 2 liquor to bring to the US. And it's a toast. I will get drunk before the end of this program, because if you're there physically, this is what we'll be doing. I know Professor Salawu doesn't drink, so let me drink on behalf of Professor Salawu. It's a toast to the non-drinker. No water for you, Serges. Get your wife to get you something. Let him get you brandy or something. No water. Tomorrow is for water, not today. Oh. Professor Salawu, I'm drinking this for you. The first miracle of Jesus Christ, he turned water into wine. This is what he did. This is part of what was left from that party. Okay, Professor Aliso, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone, and congratulations to Professor Salawu, Professor Kamga, Professor Gumede. This is my own coffee celebration. I'm just so pleased about these accomplishments because they speak to just bigger issues about the future of Africa. I'm looking at the 3 people before us today and thinking through the profiles that Professor Falola has read out about your work, your accomplishments, your mentorship, your scholarship, your productivity, your determination, your creativity, innovation, and just the ways that your scholarship, each of the 3 of you have been cutting edge and field defining. And I think that's what we are celebrating today, that before us is the best of the continent. I feel often not just that I'm a Nigerian, but an African, and one just feels proud to be associated with this kind of accomplishment. And this is a very Pan-African recognition. And I think it's worth celebrating also that it's it's a recognition of each person's work without reference to where they came from or where they were born. It's just a recognition, a meritorious recognition. And that is the future of the continent, a Pan-African future, a future that's based not on where we were born, a future in which our recognition, our embrace, our celebration will be based not on where we were born, but where we are going and what we have contributed. And I think that's what I see before me today. As I listen to the profiles, I thought it's worth also just reflecting on the 4 factors that came together in the trajectories of the 3 of you: people, institutions, nations, and knowledge, of course, which is what we're celebrating. If any of those four had been deficient in some way, we would not be at this table today celebrating you. The people surrounding you, both those that hold you up and those that you hold up, have led you to this point. The institutions that supported you, as well as the ones you created, have been part of this journey. The nations that you represent, where you were born, the teachers that taught you, the national systems that produced you, including South Africa, where you are now, where only this is possible to many, where the only nation where this is possible in many ways on the African continent today. We also need to celebrate that. And then the knowledge that your various fields celebrate today, the special and future forward contributions that you've made. We're proud of you. I want to specifically appreciate Professor Kamga, who has been supportive of my own initiatives in the past. And so I had to show up today to appreciate this, this particular conferment. And all of you, I've read Professor Gumede because I'm a political scientist, and your work is also part of what I read when I read about the African future, the African architectures and all that. Professor Salawu, we've met, of course, a few times at Professor Falola's events, always very humble, approachable, and ready to engage. I just thank God for all of you. Thank you, Professor Falola, for making this possible, for creating this gathering that helps us to think through not just the moment, but where we're going. And Professor Edith Paswana for oiling the wheels. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave, it's your turn again. Dave is the son of Serges, I think. Am I correct? Dave, turn on your... Oh, okay. Davis Mohali now. Davis Mohali, please go ahead.
Prof. Falola, thank you so much. Good evening to you.
There's something behind your back like red wine, right?
Yes, Prof. I'm celebrating. Prof. Gumede and I are always have an intimate relationship with this liquid. We are celebrating.
You drink water. Oh, okay.
This is what we're having. Prof. Falola, thank you so much. I'm very tall, but I will be very brief. I think my personal gratitude has to start with you as the chair of the session. I first met you in 2018 in Texas for my first ever international conference as a result of having worked with Prof. Gumede. At the time, I was a student of my master's at VET. And since then, through my very few interactions with you, I've always tell Gumede about how deeply I appreciate your leadership of scholarship in the continent. So I think I need to start there.
So are you giving me an award now with them?
Yes, yes. And then perhaps let me also acknowledge Prof. Kamga, and I think there's something he said when he was making acknowledgement. I don't think he completed the statement that he said Prof. Gumede used to use in encouraging him when they were at Timali, because for many of us who have crossed paths with Prof. Gumede, he would say, like Johnny Walker Black, keep on walking. So I think that statement that Prof. Kamga said was incomplete.
Yes, correct. Like Johnny Walker.
Yes, like Johnny Walker, keep on walking.
Keep walking.
Yes. And of course, maybe with you, Prof. Kamga, I was sharing this with Prof. Gumede not so long time ago that I ran away from you when you approached me to work on some book. And I like, no, I'm not a scholar, so I'm running away from this. So little did I know that we would meet virtually. And perhaps let me also take the opportunity to say condolences to you. We just learned that you went back home to bury your mom. So condolences
sorry
to you
about that.
and the broader family. I just want to take 2 minutes, Prof. Falola, then to say to Prof. Gumede, congratulations. Prof. Gumede is now my colleague at DUT. And I saw two other colleagues from DUT, Dr. Paladi and Dr. Daweti. I'm not sure if I may have missed other colleagues from DUT. So Prof. Gumede and I met in 2012. At that time, I had been in local government for 10 years. I was the leader of the NC Youth League. Julius Malema was the president. So I was very unpolished at the time. And here comes this young professor at Wits who had been in government for some time. And then we started to see things different. And at times I would forget that I was in the lecture hall and not in a political mass meeting. So I would, but I liked his patience, his approach. Fast forward, he supervised both my masters under the auspices of Wits University. And then when I thought I was done with studying, one day I was at the office. I remember it was on Friday. It was on Thursday rather. I got an email from UNISA saying that congratulations on your PhD admission. Please give us a proposal. And the deadline for the proposal was the next day. And I'm thinking, I never applied to study PhD. And I replied with one test statement, this might be a mistake, I never applied. And the administrator on the side said, no, we are aware, but however, you have been offered a place at UNISA. Can you please give us a proposal? Little did I know that Prof. Gumede had decided that whatever he considered to be the quality of my master's at the time needed to be stretched further. And then that's how my PhD journey started. And within 3 years, despite a whole lot of things that I was doing, it was complete. And I'm not sure if this would be a good idea, Prof. Gumede, to put it on record. TK did say that you've got an awkward mentorship style. I don't think it's awkward. I found that very unusual, but also very innovative. The fact that our meetings throughout your supervision, both for masters and PhD, we never really had formal engagements to discuss my research progress. We would meet over whiskey and say, so how our studies going? and that still, within 3 years, despite my commitments, I was able to complete my PhD. And I thought, and I've often heard talk about supervision politics, students and supervisors fighting. I may not have said this to you before, but I can put it on record publicly that I never had issues with you as the supervisor. Yes, you can be very hard. At sometimes I would gossip with TK that I don't think it's him. That at a very young age, he worked with President Mbeki and we read and hear about how tough President Mbeki is. It could be that also comes from there. Fast forward, since we graduated, he and I are where we are because of very respectful, but sometimes stern leadership. And we would like to thank you for that. I know how happy you were when you shared this news. And for those of us who have been privileged to be under your tutelage, your achievements are our achievements as well. So congratulations to you. We are looking forward to continuing scholarship. I say though that even yesterday I was saying to other young people I was with, I don't know how Prof. Gumede does it. He continues to be a prolific researcher. As DVC and previously as executive dean, he's involved in management administration, and he has got this new addiction of running non-stop. All of us own 24 hours in a day. I've hardly seen him tired. Once in a while he'll complain about exhaustion, but the next day he's up to something crazy. And then you're thinking, where does he get all the energy? And I was saying to the guys I was with, I think we need to confront him so that he can share the secret of his energy. So, Prof, I think you may want to share the secret of your energy with all of us so that one day we could be like you. With that said, thank you very much, Prof. Gumede. At personal level, I'm glad that none of us would have imagined when we first met in 2012 that today would be colleagues at DUT. So I think that is the beauty of life. I think the relationship has sort of become full circle. I know at times in our private communication, we speak about the relationship having been graduated into brotherhood, and indeed it is. Prof. Falola, as my parting shot, his biggest fight with me is that I'm his only student that he has never published with. So that is a work in progress. At some point, we'll get to publish.
Davis, I'm appointing you as the orator.
Thank you, Prof.
The university. Now the university orator. Dave, I was told that they didn't allow you to unmute. Please unmute Dave. Dave Ichello. Mikello. I don't know how to pronounce that beautiful name. Please unmute Dave.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Who is talking?
Dave.
Okay, we can hear you, but we can't see you. Unless you show your video, they won't bring you up.
He's here now.
Because we are afraid of Zoom bombers. You look like the son of Kamga, right? Serges Kamga?
Yeah.
Are you his son or who is this?
I am his son.
The Dave that I saw, I saw you when you were just the size of banana.
No.
Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dave Joyu Kamga, and I am the son of Professor Kamga. And on behalf of the Kamga family, it is with immense pride and joy that I stand before you today to celebrate the remarkable achievement of the Triumphant Trio.
Hey,
Today,
you're quoting my phrase. Be careful. I can accuse you of plagiarism.
Today, we honor the excellence, dedication, and the kind of hard work that inspires generations. But allow me to selfishly shine a special light on one extraordinary individual, my father, Professor Kamga. Dad, your journey has been nothing short of inspiring. Through every challenge, every late night, waking up at 3 a.m. every morning, and every sacrifice, despite everything you've been through, all your sickness and through the bad health, you've shown that what it means to lead with integrity, to strive for greatness, and to never settle for less than your best. This award is not just a recognition of your excellence, it is a testament of your unwavering commitment to your craft, your students, and your community. Growing up, you've always been more than a professor. You've been a mentor, a guide, not just to me, but to my brothers, Charles, Rollin, and my lovely mom, Miss Vicky Kamga. Your
Where is she?
wisdom, humility,
Is she
and
here?
strength. Oh, absolutely, she's here.
Okay. How are you?
I'm fine, sir.
Go ahead.
Your wisdom, humility, and strength have shaped us to be who we are today. You are my role model, and I'm endlessly proud to call you my father.
I'm very jealous. I thought I'm your role model.
Both of you are, sir, don't worry. We can never leave you out.
Thank you very much, Dave. This is the second time
Okay.
I'll be listening to your speech.
All right.
You are a wonderful
Just to close,
Okay, close. Bring him back.
all right. Just
Technician.
to
talking.
close. To the rest of the trio, your brilliance and teamwork have elevated this moment into something truly special. You have shown that your collaboration and passion can move mountains. So today we celebrate not just the award, but a legacy of excellence, of perseverance and love. Congratulations, Dad. Congratulations, the Triumphant Trio. The world is a better place with you guys in it. Thank you.
I think you are borrowing my brain without my permission. You are even writing poetry. You are stealing from my brain. Be careful. Lamba, what happens is that we ask you to show your video and we didn't get a response. Please bring in Lamba. She's a real person. Don't be afraid. Bring in Limba. Lamba, yes, please, you can talk.
You.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Falola. I hope I'm visible and audible. Thank you
You
so
are
much
audible, but you are not visible, but that's all right.
Okay, but my video is on. Thank you so much. I'd like to, like the other speakers, congratulate the trio Professor Salawu, Professor Kamga, and Professor Gumede. And then specifically, I'd like to just congratulate Professor Gumede. My name is Dino Mlaba. I'm from the South African Public Service and Administration Department, and I'm affiliated to a number of platforms, of which I have access through the advice, the assistance, and the push and help from Professor Vusi Gumede. So unlike a lot of people that have spoken from South Africa before me, I'm not familiar with Professor Gumede from an academic background only, but I actually am somebody who met him through the public service. So Professor Gumede used to be a senior public servant, and I was an intern a couple of years ago. I'm not going to mention which year. But yeah, he was a big boss of mine where I was an intern in terms of policy analysis. And he guided me as well as a number of other young graduates that had just come into the government space, and in particular, the presidency, where Professor Gumede was a senior executive supporting the president, Thabo Mbeki, and other executive members. So from that day on, I've known Professor Gumede, and we have evolved our relationship from a government perspective to an academic research perspective. And through him and his advice, and as I say, through his guidance, and I think as other colleagues have said, through his sometimes very difficult stance when it comes to pushing you to achieve what you need to achieve, I've had access to a number of platforms such as NATO. So I'm one of the young Atlanticist members of NATO. I am a member of the APAM Young Professionals Network, as well as the G20 Anti-Corruption Working Group, just to name a few. So Professor Gumede is somebody who really cares about pushing those who are previously marginalized. For example, young people, women, and people coming from disadvantaged backgrounds. He really makes it a point to make time for them, to advise, sometimes to chastise where he needs to chastise them. But more than anything, I think he understands that when you have potential, you have to be assisted to get somewhere in life. And I believe all his work is all about reaching an end, because I don't think just being a scholar, being a senior executive, being a leader is about just being in a position, but it's actually a means to an end. And what is that end? That end is about progress. That end is about growth. It's about development. It's about prosperity and positive influence wherever you are. So from him, I've learned all these things, and I really want to congratulate him. And I wish he can be there when I get my PhD eventually. Thank you so much.
And the last person is Sophia. If she wants to talk, that will be our last person before I close the program. Sophia, do you still want to talk? Please unmute Sophia. Please go ahead, Sophia. Cletus, you didn't say you want to talk. You are complicating. I will call you. Okay. Sophia is struggling with the internet. Cletus, you want to quickly talk? 1 minute. Sophia, can you talk now? Cletus, can you talk quickly?
Yeah, yes. Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, colleagues.
Yes.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, the living luminary of academia in Africa.
Please,
I want
this
to
is
use
not
the
about
opportunity
me.
to thank you, Prof.
Yeah.
The last time we met was in one of the discussions at the Thabo Mbeki, the African dialogue, where you blew our minds. But this day is a day to celebrate the three professors, and particularly the two professors that encouraged me to leave business and get into academia, Professor
Can we see your
Vusi
face?
Gumede.
Can you turn your video?
Prof, I need to turn my video, but I'm in
go
a
ahead
family
and continue.
setting. So
Okay, go ahead and continue.
yes.
I know you're handsome, but go ahead, talk.
I will, definitely. I just want to thank Professor Vusi Gumede and, of course, Professor Kamga. When we came through in 2012, they were the founding professors alongside Professor Pasfana, who joined the Thabo Mbeki African Leadership Institute. I'm one of the pioneers. We started in 2012, where I passed the good governance in Africa and, of course, thought leadership for Africa's renewal. And these professors really molded my passion for academia amongst hundreds of others. So fast forward, they laid the foundation where we could learn how to understand what was methodology. Because in our days in Cameroon, we were battling to understand exactly what methodology is all about. So these gentlemen actually were part of our foundation, and then fast forward to us now getting into doing the masters under UNISA through the school again, and then now most of us who were never even interested in furthering our education, we are battling to get into our PhD, and we are now PhD candidates. And today we have, I'm the president of the Thabo Mbeki School, which we founded, the alumni, Timali, which is now TM School today. So I'm still the acting alumni president. And it's a wonderful thing because we are about 2,000 that passed through the hands of Professor Gumede and Professor Kamga. And the school is now TM School. So we're very proud. And out of those of us who started in 2012, out of the 2,000, I think about 75 of us have either had our doctorate or we are doing our doctorate. So it's thanks to these gentlemen that we took these ropes. And it's always a pleasure to hear them and to celebrate them. And we believe that one of the challenges thing now that is happening within the continent is in last weeks, we have a conference where they said more articles, more publications, but Africa is going down because of leadership. So how do we transform the academia into leadership? We're hoping that we want to see the professors who are an inspiration to become presidents tomorrow. Professor Kamga, Cameroon is on fire. We need you to step up. Professor Gumede, South Africa needs you to come in. We want to see professors who become presidents because the issue of leadership and service delivery and the accountability within the elections, you can see how it is porous. So we hope that we are going to twist another rope through your inspirations to see how can professors lead the continent. Because whether we like it or not, we have the wrong people in the wrong place doing leadership that backslides. Cameroon now, they are on the street. We can see what is happening in Tanzania and what happened in Madagascar, and we don't know. The coup is coming again. So we are hoping that through this inspirational setup, we'll be able to follow in your footsteps and get the continent change and change really for good. So thank you so much. I'm happy and I'm delighted to be part of this wonderful community of luminaries in the making. Thank you so much and cheers.
Cletus, that is a powerful closing statement. I want to pray to close this statement. And I want you to practice. On the count of three, all of you will say Ashe. 1, 2, 3. Ashe. Practice again. 1, 2, 3. I cannot hear you. You say Ashe. 1, 2, 3.
Ashe.
Say
Ashe.
Ashe. You all say it at the same time. 1, 2, 3. Ashe. 1, 2, 3. Ashe. Practice one last time. 1, 2, 3. Ashe. So when I say this, you will say Ashe. You want to practice? Say Ashe.
Ashe.
Say it.
Ashe.
When I do this, say Ashe. You are very difficult to teach. Say Ashe.
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 All of you. Let me pray. Olodumare, the everlasting and spiritual God, from ancient Egypt to today, we thank you for the gift of life. Ashe.
Ashe.
You are very difficult to teach. We also thank you for the gift of purpose.
Ashe.
God, you have placed within us 3 eminent personalities. Protect their lives.
Ashe.
Give them long lives.
Ashe.
Bless the work of their hands
Ashe.
and their thoughts.
Ashe.
Serges, you are not saying Ashe.
Ashe.
Let wisdom guide their decisions.
Ashe.
Serges, Ashe.
Ashe.
Salawu, Ashe. You know what Ashe is. Preserve their strength.
Ashe.
Open doors of more opportunities for them.
Ashe.
Salawu, say Ashe.
Ashe.
Salawu, you are not talking. Promote their growth and excellence.
Ashe.
Surround them with grace.
Ashe.
Turn their challenges into triumphs.
Ashe.
And their success will bring glory to Africa. Ashe.
Ashe.
Thank you very much. We will now close the program with music from a Yoruba iconic figure. I'm glad this has gone very well.
Thank you.
If I had flown to Pretoria as I've planned, it would not have been more successful. It's very well attended. We will release the recording in 2 minutes. And you can forward it to all your friends. We are very grateful. Music, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very